Over there, send the word over there, that the boys are coming, the drums tumbling everywhere. Son, prepare, say a prayer, send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there.
Come in, Miss,
Chris Manson. Chris is fine.
Have a seat, Chris. What can I do for you?
Thank you for your time, Colonel. I understand a Mark Rentz is suing you. I'd like to get your side of the story.
Well, all right. In the first place, this whole thing smacks of a scam to me. I think that this Rentz is trying to pull...
Excuse me. I believe his name is Rentz, Mark Rentz.
You're right. Rentz. This bozo is suing me because he says I'm firing him because his hair is too long.
Is he right? Is that the reason?
Oh, it's more complicated than that. In the first place, I think this kid is a shill for some shyster lawyer. Recruited by some ambulance chaser who was looking to cash in on the current craze of sympathy for these long hairs.
Let's go back to the beginning. What was his job, and why is long hair a problem for you?
He's a valet car parker in my restaurant, the Silver Wings. I don't mind well-groomed hair that's slightly over the ears, but his hair was stringy and over his collar. I can't accept that. My valets are the first people that the customers encounter. It's essential that these young men make a good first impression on people.
Why did you hire him in the first place?
Oh, when he applied, his hair was a little on the long side, but he was clean otherwise. I didn't see a problem. But then he never cut his hair, and he began to wear his uniform in a sloppy manner, which is what makes me think some lawyer put him up to it.
You think it was all intentional on Mark and his lawyer's part so they could sue you?
It's a good possibility, don't you think?
I haven't the foggiest. I still don't understand why long hair bothers you so.
It isn't just the hair. It's the insolence that long hair implies. I can tell you one thing. He'd never get away with this in the military. We'd throw his butt in the brig if he tried to pull that on us. As for suing the military, well, lots of luck.
You see your valets as troops under your command?
Oh, I wouldn't put it that strong. But I expect the same appearance and respect as from young men in the military. Is that so unreasonable?
I'm not a judge, only a working stiff of a reporter.
Yeah, but you can write a story that makes me look like a fascist.
Are you a fascist?
Of course not.
The young man said you spoke to him only once after he began, and that was to tell him he was fired.
I spoke to my manager about it at least twice.
Let's talk about your military career for a minute. I know that you're very proud of this part of your life.
Proudest of anything I've ever done.
Why is that?
It was an opportunity to test myself against other men. As a P-47 dive bomber pilot, all you have is yourself and the aircraft. When you come in low enough to dive bomb a target and you see the enemy shooting their ack-ack back into your face, you're completely on your own. It's both a terrifying and an exhilarating experience. I can understand now why Lindbergh referred to himself in the spirit of St. Louis as we.
You were highly decorated for your exploits, weren't you?
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I was just doing my job. And as for the medals, I got the usual fruit salad and someone with my experience in combat time.
What medals did you get?
Let's see, there was the DFC, that's the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Air Medal with 5 oak leaf clusters, Silver Star, Purple Heart, several others I give you for simply being there.
So you were wounded then?
I was flying my 78th mission, dive bombing submarine pens at Kyle when I caught some enemy flak and I crash landed in some shallow water. Was taken as a prisoner of war until our camp was liberated 6 months later by Patton. I got a few scratches in the landing, so some PFC with nothing better to do wrote me up for a Purple Heart when I got back.
Why did you choose the Army Air Corps?
I always wanted to fly. The Army had the best planes and the best training. I always wanted to be a dive bomber pilot because I didn't want the responsibility for other men's lives the way the B-17 pilots did.
What about the lives of the Germans?
Listen, I flew 78 combat missions and I'm proud of that. But I'm prouder still of the fact that when I enlisted, I committed myself to laying down my life if necessary for my family and my friends and even those lousy draft dodgers. Fortunately, I didn't have to make good on my commitment. But for those who did, they came as close to Jesus as a man can come. Greater love has no man than this, and he lays down his life for his friends.
You do know your Bible.
Well, I got my wings and my commission on the 21st of March, 1944 at Palo Alto Army Air Corps Advanced Single Engine School in Victoria, Texas.
How old were you?
19. I was the youngest commissioned pilot in my class.
My brother got his wings a week after his 20th birthday. He's 2 years older than I am, my hero. I wanted so much to go into the Army Air Corps with him. Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun.
Anyway, after that, I got my commission and I went into P-47 dive bomber training, and I was assigned to the 8th Air Force. We flew dive bombing missions over the industrial heartland of Germany.
Tell me about your POW experience.
Did you ever see the movie Stalag 17? It was a lot like that. We tried breaking out a few times, and every time Krauts caught us. Just like in the movie, they had an infiltrator and a Kraut that was raised in the United States who kept them posted on what was going on. One time, they let us dig all the way within a foot of the fence before they shut us down. They said they knew when we took out the first handful of dirt, but they let us keep going because it kept us busy and it prevented a revolt. Occupational therapy, as Big Wilhelm the Commandant called it.
How do you feel about young men who refuse to go to Vietnam?
Most of them are either yellow or fags or druggies.
Don't you think some of them come from good, solid, respectable families?
Maybe a few that enjoy rebelling.
Do you know that only 2 members of Congress have any children serving in Vietnam? How do you feel about our leaders asking other people's children and not their own to go to war?
Listen, that was not a problem during World War II. I'm fed up with a cop-out mood that's in our country today. It's become cool to be a slacker. In my day, we considered it an honor to put on the uniform of our country.
You have a son of draft age, don't you?
Yeah. Wayne is about ready to get his master's degree at Berkeley. But he's got a low draft number, so I suspect it won't be long before he gets into the service.
What if he decides not to go?
Oh, he won't. He was an Eagle Scout, and he was captain of his high school tennis team.
Even Eagle Scouts and sports team captains have refused to go. Aren't you worried he could get killed in Vietnam?
Hey, life is a risk. Any of us could be killed out just driving on the freeway.
Why do you want him to go to Vietnam?
Because it's the honorable thing to do. Honor. That's fast becoming a lost word for this generation.
Some people think that governments use honor as a club to beat people over the head to keep them in line.
Yeah? Wimps always say things like that.
You're really worked up about this Vietnam situation, aren't you?
Damn right I am. When I see those dirty hippies out there burning the American flag while other young men their age are dying for it, I want to puke. It's my son now. Probably we're going out to lunch to celebrate his graduation. Wayne, this is Chris Madsen from the Chronicle. She's writing a story about what a fascist I am.
How do you do, Chris? You don't think my father's really a fascist, do you?
He has some ideas George McGovern might have trouble with.
Well, Dad, George should be a buddy of yours. He flew 50 missions as a B-25 pilot.
Which only goes to prove my point about how crazy everything is today.
I'll leave you two to your father-son thing. But first I'd like to ask Wayne, if I may, what he thinks about the suit over the valet's hair.
Well, I think both he and my father are a little extreme.
Meaning?
Careful, son. Remember who's buying lunch.
Well, He's kidding, of course, but he does like to use his money to shore up that right wing of his.
You're avoiding my question, Wayne. How would you vote if you were on the jury?
Well, I vote that we recess for lunch.
You could be president someday.
Actually, I was thinking of going into the ministry. But the key to success there is to avoid two subjects, politics and religion.
Do you think Jesus would fight in Vietnam?
Don't ask me. I'm a Lutheran. We Lutherans like to keep several layers of theological insulation between ourselves and Jesus.
Let's pull the chocks from underneath the wheels and take off before he starts preaching.
I'm sorry this can't go on. Maybe another time, huh? Thanks for seeing me, Colonel.
Our pleasure.
Wayne, nice to meet you both.
Nice to meet you. Where should we go for lunch?
Where in the wild blue yonder are you headed this morning?
I told you several weeks ago I'm the main speaker at the Memorial Day services at Golden Gate National Cemetery. I don't suppose that might interest you.
Well, it might, but I have a tennis match. I stopped by to let you know that I just got my 1A draft notice.
Hey, congratulations.
That's not exactly how I feel.
How are you feeling?
That Vietnam is a waste, mostly of young guys who haven't got the means or the clout to stay out of the war.
You've bought the whole commie line, huh?
No, I just don't see any point in what we're doing over there. I mean, we're killing people who are no threat to us.
You'd let the communists march right through Southeast Asia. Where would you draw the line? At the Golden Gate Bridge?
If our country were ever attacked, I would fight just like you did in World War II.
What if everyone felt like they had the right to pick and choose where they were going to fight and defend freedom?
Maybe we'd have fewer wars.
You know, in my day, young men that refused to fight were called draft dodgers, and they were held in contempt.
Then you might as well call me the same thing.
You've gone that far, huh?
I'm not going to Vietnam, Dad.
Well, then what are you going to do?
Maybe go to Canada.
Might as well stay there.
Why does it bother the hell out of you if I don't do what you did?
It's more than just a personal thing. It has to do with duty and honor. I know, those are quaint words for you and some of your friends. Wayne, I taught you to love and to cherish this great land of ours, but I've obviously failed somewhere along the way. My generation risked their butts to give you something worth fighting for. What happened, son? How have we failed?
You didn't fail, Dad. We're just different people, that's all. Different generations. And these are different times. I don't expect you to agree with me. I was just hoping that you would respect me for having given this decision some thought. But apparently you feel that you have the right to make a life or death decision for me.
It isn't that. I've been around a little while longer than you have, and I can tell you, a man will screw up his entire life if he takes the chicken way out. No one will ever...
You think I'm taking the chicken way out?
Of course you are. Real men have always fought to preserve their nation and civilization.
So that's what we're doing in Vietnam, preserving civilization.
Well, then what are we doing there?
That's the question, isn't it? You know, Will Rogers said that if you see a picture on the wall of a young man in uniform with a gold star on the frame, there'll be a catch in the father's voice and an extra tear in the mother's eye that wouldn't be there if their son had been killed in an automobile accident.
If parents lose a son fighting for his country, is it wrong of them to feel proud?
Well, I always thought that the first job of parents was to protect their offspring. I mean, survival of the species would dictate that, wouldn't it?
Berkeley has filled your head with this crap, hasn't it? The issue is clear-cut. Are you going to fight for this country or aren't you?
I'll fight for this country, Dad. But I'm not going to Vietnam to do it.
Yeah, you can fight the commies when they land at Fort Mason then. You know, you're not only a draft dodger, you've got a yellow streak a mile wide running right down the middle of your back.
You don't really mean that, do you, Dad?
Yes, I do. You have a banana yellow streak a mile wide running right down the middle of your back.
Shame on you, Dad. How can you say that to your own son and love him?
I'll love my son when he proves that he's a man.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. I've got to earn your love and on your terms, is that it?
How can I love a wimp? You have no idea how much it hurts to have a draft dodger for a son.
What about a father who's eager to sacrifice his son to a cause that neither of them understands? Dad, remember that weird story about Abraham and Isaac? Abraham invited his son Isaac on a hike up to a mountaintop to make a burnt offering to God. And when they got there, Abraham bound Isaac and put him on a pile of wood on an altar. And just as Abraham was about to slice Isaac's throat, a voice from heaven called down that it was only a test. It's only a test, Abe. So why was Isaac so damn trusting? I mean, when his father put him on the firewood, what sane kid wouldn't have struggled to get loose? But instead he laid there like a dumb sheep. Why would any father want to do that to his son, Dad?
Because God told him to. And besides, Abraham knew that God would never let him go through with it.
If Abraham knew that God was going to do that, what kind of a test is that? See, the problem was that no one asked Isaac, including God. See, it was really a test of Isaac's faith in the old man. Isaac never heard God speak as Abraham did. I mean, how was Isaac supposed to know that his father hadn't just gone bonkers? When Isaac asked his dad, "Where was the lamb?" Abraham replied that God would provide one. Well, Isaac must have realized at some point that he was the lamb that God was going to provide.
That's what I've been trying to tell you. Abraham knew that God would never let him go through with such a terrible thing.
But Dad, picture this. Abraham tied up his own son and put him on a pile of wood on the altar. Then the old man pulled out his trusty Swiss Army knife, probably broke his fingernail trying to get that big blade out, and he held it over Isaac's throat.
And then God spared Isaac.
The damage was already done. How could Isaac ever again trust his father? Or God, for that matter. I mean, if you were Isaac, how would you feel the next time that your father said, "Let's go out for a hike in the hills, son"? Why would God choose such a test? One that's certain to deepen the gulf that's already between them. That wasn't a test from heaven, Dad. That was a test from hell.
It seems to me the whole point of the story is whether or not a man is willing to trust and obey God.
History is filled with nuts who believed that God told them to do some god-awful things. Some of them thought that God wanted them to kill Turks during the Crusades or burn witches at Salem. You know, and some of the bloodiest wars have been holy wars. And even in World War II, plenty of good Germans, Americans, and Japanese sincerely believed that God was on their side. Gott mit uns. Even the Army Air Corps chaplain who prayed over the crew of the Enola Gay before she dropped the bomb on Hiroshima prayed that our guys might return home safely. Our guys! Apparently, the people who were about to be disintegrated were of little concern to God.
Thank God for a swift end to that war.
Sure, because we had the bomb. Not because God was on our side.
I think we had the bomb because God was on our side.
You really think so? Old Abe would have loved it.
You know, it's easy for you to stand there and smugly tear down everything that has made this country great.
Look, if God is on our side, why are we getting our butts kicked in Vietnam?
Maybe God's trying to tell us that we've strayed a little too far from it.
I can't stray far enough from a God like that.
I've had just about enough of your insolence. Why don't you get the hell out of my house?
I will. Wait, on second thought, Dad, if I went to Vietnam and came home in a box, then you could really be proud of me, huh?
Get out!
It's true, isn't it, Dad? You could be proud of me for the rest of your life if only I came home in a box. My son gave his life for this country. Never mind that he had nothing to fight for. That it was all a big fat joke. The important thing is that he preserved your honor by coming home in a box. That's it, isn't it, Dad? Sons die for their father's honor. That's what the body bags are all about. The old man's honor.
Get out of here, damn it! I never want to see your face again! Damn!
I was always such a puny kid. When the kids in the neighborhood would choose up sides for baseball, I always got chosen last. That all changed when I joined the Army Air Corps. Girls used to ogle me like I was Tyrone Power. People thought that there was something wrong with you if you weren't in the service in those days. But best of all, you were proud of me, Dad. Remember the first time you saw me in that Army Air Corps cadet's uniform? Your eyes began to fill up with tears. She reached out to touch the insignia and you said, "Is that real gold?" Remember that, Dad? I'm proud of you, son. Those were your exact words. I'll never forget them because it's the first time I'd ever heard those words from you. And then you had your fatal stroke a week later. After telling Mom that you loved her, you said, "Tell Buzz how proud I am of him." You said that a father and a son share a common bond in the military that's as thick as blood. But now I've lost it with my own son. More than anything, I wanted Wayne to make something of himself in the service. But now I've shot it. Shot it all down in flames. Why is it, Dad, that sons have so little respect for their fathers today? The last thing I would have ever done was to go against you. I can't imagine Wayne even thinking about that. You said that you became a man when you went into the Army, and that the discipline stuck with you for the rest of your life. You told me how Grandpa, who had fought in the Spanish-American War, was so proud when he had seen you in your uniform. I put on that Army Air Corps cadet's uniform so that you could be as proud of me as your father was of you. Thank God you lived long enough to see it. Like father, like son. It's in our blood, Dad. But the blood congealed somewhere with my son. He could care less about my being proud of him in uniform. Why is there such a great gulf between us? And what's the future of a country whose young men will no longer fight to defend her, and whose sons don't give a damn about the sacrifices that their fathers have made? I fear to God for our country, Dad. You're lucky you're not here. It would break your heart. And now Wayne thinks that I don't love him because I want him to do his duty? Of course I don't want anything to happen to him. He's my son. He's my only kid. It would break my heart if anything ever happened to him. I don't want him to be a yellow-bellied coward either. Dang it! What in God's name went wrong?
I know you have to get to the retired officers' dinner, but I want to ask you how you feel about the decision the judge handed down on the Rents case.
Lousy. Especially when the judge let them argue the First Amendment, as if having stringy hair down past your collar is a matter of free speech.
Apparently the judge felt the young man's hair didn't damage your business and that he had a right to express himself.
Well, not the ones who work for me. But who knows? I may have a 500-pound gorilla suing for his right to a job soon.
I've seen guys with boot camp haircuts driving cars like animals.
You know, it all comes down to whether or not employers have any rights left. I used to think that the unions were bad, but these long hairs, they make the Teamsters look like a bunch of choir boys.
Why do these long hairs, as you call them, make you come unglued?
They look like a bunch of sideshow freaks, and then they act like there's something wrong with the rest of us.
It's one way of getting attention.
Well, there's more here at stake than that. But anyway, we're going to appeal. A lot of business guys have been calling me up and encouraging me to stick to my guns.
There's something else I want to talk with you about. You're not going to like this. I began to wonder how you could get so many decorations as a 20-year-old kid. My brother, who also flew a P-47, wondered too. So I checked you out.
The hell is this? I spent 4 years in the active duty and then I went into the reserves. Next month, I will be in the reserves for 24 years.
That isn't what my source tells me.
Who is this source of yours? Whoever it is setting himself up for one hell of a libel suit. Look, here's my reserve officer's membership card right here.
My source is highly reliable.
Let him prove it in court.
That won't be necessary, Mr. Whitney.
Last I looked, I was still Colonel Whitney.
You'd better look again.
Here's the proof right here.
I confirmed my hunch.
I don't care if the angel Gabriel confirmed it. I know what I am.
It's a good thing you do because the Pentagon...
What the hell is this? You know, your boss and I are members of the same Rotary Club. Wait till he hears about this. You'll be lucky to be writing the obituaries.
The Pentagon says they have no record of a Colonel Leonard Buzz Whitney. They don't even have a record of a Private Leonard Buzz Whitney. Zip. You never flew an airplane or peeled a potato as far as they're concerned.
You know, Chris, I'm a reasonable guy. Let's deal with this as adults, shall we? You don't have to make any mention of my military record in the story that you're writing, and I don't have to make any references to it in the future.
Are you going to give yourself an honorable or a dishonorable discharge?
Very funny. But you don't have to mention my military career or lack of military career in that story that you're writing, do you?
It's all a part of the record, or lack of record.
Just can't let it go, huh?
I really don't think so. The public has a right to know when one of its prominent citizens is flying blind. Maybe you should rename your restaurant the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
You know, Chris, I have a friend who's a travel agent. She could put together a grand tour of Europe for you and a special friend.
Buzz off, Buzz. Now you're trying to bribe me? But you've already committed the unpardonable sin.
Yeah? What's that?
Lying to a reporter. We'll get you for that even before God does.
You and your yellow pages don't worry me.
You'll not only face the snickers of the reserve officers and Rotary Club guys, but if I report that you tried to bribe me, you won't be able to sell hot dogs from a push cart.
Okay. Play it your way. What goes around comes around.
Are you threatening,
Oh,
Gal?
no. I'm only saying that when you try and destroy someone else's life, it'll all come back to you.
Tell me, Buzz, why did you start this game?
Guilty until proven innocent, right?
Are you innocent? Were you really a colonel in the Army Air Corps and a P-47 dive bomber pilot? The snafu army carelessly mislaid your records? You gave them a big chunk of your life and now they're not even going to give you a pension? It's too bad you didn't stay in another 10 years. You could have become chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
I think I've said everything I have to say.
You must have something to say in your defense. I'd be happy to print your side of the story.
I could stand here and protest this damn mistake, but what good would it do? I'm already guilty in your eyes, and I'm sure I will be in the eyes of your readers.
No one is guilty until the judge slams down his gavel. Tell me, how did this whole thing get started? Did it just snowball on you?
You know, you're a great reporter, Chris, but you're not going to get me to sign my own death warrant.
I didn't know that being a cardboard colonel was a capital offense.
My dad saw me in uniform before he died. That's all that matters.
What about your son? Doesn't his opinion matter?
My son doesn't even care enough about his country to put on a uniform.
Real or rented?
You know, you're a sharp, sexy woman, Chris. I should take you to Europe myself.
If you can't bribe me, you'll seduce me?
Seriously, I'm a lonely guy. My wife's left me, and now I've chased my son away. I never hurt anyone with this uniform thing.
Is this a confession?
God above! Do you take that pad and pencil to bed with you?
You'll never know, Colonel.
Well, at least you restored my rank.
You and Colonel Sanders belong next door to each other. Colonel Buzz, the Baloney King.
So you're still going to write this story, huh?
Yes.
even if it destroys my life and what little respect my son may have left for me?
Look, I'm getting sick and tired of this. If you're not trying to get my job, you're trying to ship me off to Europe or get me into bed. Now you're trying to tell me I'm responsible for the falling out with your son? Give me a break, Buster. Or Buzz. Nice to see you. Won't you have a seat?
No thanks. I'm mad as hell.
What are you talking about?
You know perfectly well what I'm talking about.
I can guess. But what's with the uniform?
I'm shipping out to Vietnam as a medic.
Last I heard, you were going to Canada.
I changed my mind. But that's not why I'm here. Why the hell did you do that to my father?
Excuse me? I believe he did it to himself.
Maybe, but you didn't have to go make it a front-page story.
You've heard it many times. We don't make the news, we only report it.
How would you feel if it had been your father?
Terrible.
But you went ahead and reported it anyway.
I had to.
Why?
Look, if we had to weigh every story as to its consequences, we'd never be able to get out of paper.
But why does bad news grab you so much more than good news?
Because it grabs everybody so much more.
Well, you sure surprised me with this story about my father.
Why is that?
Oh, no, you don't. You're not getting another story about the son who was taken in by his father for over 20 years.
I can understand that. Look, you need to talk about this, don't you? Can you trust me to break a rule just this once?
Meaning?
I'll keep our whole conversation off the record.
What happens to your bad news is good news for us policy?
It got lost somewhere.
Okay. I'm sorry to say my father conned me completely. I didn't like his trying to out-Patton General Patton, but I did admire him for sticking to his guns, so to speak. I mean, the man would give up a golf game to go to the Veterans Hospital and visit another vet. He'd give a vet who was down on his luck $100. Then he'd call the guy back and see how he was doing. And then he'd give him another 100. He gave thousands of hours and thousands of dollars to the Boy Scouts. He even bought a Chevy Suburban so he could haul all of us kids to campouts. One of the reasons my parents got divorced is that my mom felt that the Scouts and the veterans came before her.
And now he's turned out to be a phony.
The worst part is being lied to by your own father.
I understand, but why did you enlist?
My closest buddy since kindergarten became a Marine grunt. I was his best man in his wedding, just before he shipped out.
He wrote back awful letters about how he shot his laundry boy who was a Viet Cong by night. Then my friend got pinned down in a rice paddy under enemy fire that was so heavy that no one dared go out and get him. Then one medic, a black guy, crawled out under the machine gun fire and dragged my friend in. That medic, who was in Vietnam so that he could get the GI Bill and become a doctor, took several rounds and was killed for his trouble. My buddy lived. Everything is getting so screwed up by this war. I just want to do something different.
So you're going to go in and unscrew the whole thing all by yourself?
I guess there's more to it than that. I hate to admit it at age 25, but I still want my father's okay. I didn't tell him I'd enlisted in the Marines. But I kept thinking, all through boot camp, that when I got back, he'd put his arm around me and say, "I'm proud of you, son." Here I am, old enough to have kids of my own, and I still want my father to put his arm around me. Can you believe it? It's like when I was in the Little League. I never got a hit, and I always booted the slow grounders. Even when I was 0 for 3, I still wanted my father to come up to me after the game and hug me and say, "Nice game, son." But he never did.
But don't you feel had by your father? Would you be going to Vietnam if you had known he had lied to you about his war record?
Do they teach you to ask questions like that in journalism boot camp?
Sorry, it's hard to retrain an attack dog. What are you going to do about your father?
I don't know. Part of me wants to just get the hell back to the Marines and write him a letter.
Isn't that a little chicken?
Sure, but what do you want me to do? Go over and punch him out?
He deserves it, doesn't he?
Maybe, but what good would it do? Except maybe make me feel a little better.
Wouldn't you be fighting for your honor?
Where have I heard that before?
You're going to have a showdown with him sooner or later, aren't you?
Yeah, I can hear him say, "What's the harm in dressing up a little? People do it all the time at costume parties."
But they don't make a career out of being the Red Baron.
Yeah, but why not let him alone? I mean, he's not hurting anyone.
Except himself. He needs you, Wayne. He's going to die out in his own little rice paddy if you don't go to him.
Yeah, but he helped sucker me into this endless mess when he didn't even show up for his own war.
But don't you owe it to him to find out why?
Can't imagine any good reason why someone would be so obsessed with a uniform.
I think his trouble is more than a uniform fetish. I think something else deeper is eating away at him.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Look, thanks. Thanks for listening. You know, he sure fooled me for a long, long time.
What's with the uniform? What made you change your mind?
I haven't changed my mind about the war. I enlisted because... Never mind.
What I'm really concerned about is how you're doing.
I'm fine. Better now that you decided to be a man.
Stop the horse manure, Dad.
You can't talk to me like that.
It's all over, Dad. The story's in this morning's Chronicle. Why did you do it?
It just happened.
It just happened? You don't get to be colonel in your own private Air Corps by it just happening.
What's wrong with what I did anyway? You know what I'd like to do right now? I'd like to go over there and dive bomb Hanoi while all those fancy pants politicians are sitting around arguing about the shape of the conference table.
You still don't get it, do you, Dad? I mean, if you want to go parading around in a uniform, that's one thing. But to lie to
Everyone's
people,
blown this way out.
it's not like you accidentally slipped into a uniform. Look at you. You're still pretending.
Happy now?
It's too late. I bought your whole phony story since I was a little kid, sitting on your shoulders at the Veterans Day parade.
Huh. Nobody put a gun to your head. You didn't have to go enlist.
Now you tell me. Do you have any idea how much I wanted to please you? How much I wanted to hear you say that you were proud of me? You never once said that, did you, Dad? Never once in my whole life did I ever do anything to make you proud of me. Huh, Dad? Never once. Well, you were prouder of old Thunderbolt. When he'd fetch a ball and bring it back to you, you'd scratch his ears and say, "Good dog, nice going, old boy." Well, here, Dad, you throw this ball and I'll fetch it and you can scratch my ears. Come on, Dad, throw it. I need to hear you say you're proud of me. Nice son. Good going, old boy.
You'll never be able to forgive me, will you?
I don't know. Why did you do it, Dad? Why did you wear that phony uniform for all these years?
My dad earned a Silver Star during World War I. He took out a German machine gun nest with a hand grenade. One of his buddies said he never saw a man hold a grenade longer before throwing it. Most guys threw it too quick, and the enemy threw it right back. Then when World War II came along, I wanted to show him that I was a chip off the old block. I loved and admired him so much. I would have done anything to show him.
So what happened?
I tried to enlist, but they wouldn't have me. I had a heart murmur, so I got classified 4F. 4F. That leaves you at home with the women and the old men. My dad had his first stroke right after that. So I went out and I bought a suntan uniform at the Army-Navy store to try and impress him. His eyes glistened with pride when he saw me dressed as an Army Air Corps cadet. I wore the uniform a week later to his funeral. And then I began to tell people that I was going to be in training to be an Army Air Corps pilot. I moved to Los Angeles and I got a job in a restaurant. And I'd come back to San Francisco periodically, always wearing the uniform, until after 9 months of pilot's training, I went out and bought a tailor-made Army Air Corps officer's outfit. It cost me $150 with the gold bars and the silver wings. It's no problem getting dates with the cutest girls in town.
Oh, God, don't tell me anymore. I'm glad you had such a good time during the war. But I still don't understand why you kept up the lie.
I lied to myself, and then I started to believe my own story.
Dad, if only you'd told me that you'd never even been on KP. We could have talked about war. I needed to talk with you, Dad. I needed so much to be able to talk with you. Maybe we had more in common than we knew.
Except I wanted to go in the service.
So you pretended, and you cheapened the hell out of the sacrifices of those who went.
So that's what you think. I'm a phony and a cheap pretender, huh?
You said it, Dad, but yes. Yes, I do.
My own son, the last person on earth I thought would be judging me.
Well, how else am I supposed to feel about it?
My God, here I am on trial with my son as the prosecutor, judge, and jury.
No one forced you into that uniform.
In your eyes, I'm just a common criminal, huh?
Forget it. I can see I'm banging my head up against a brick wall.
Well, son, I've obviously failed, but maybe the Marines can make a man out of you.
It never ends, does it, Dad? I'm glad we had this little chat. Now I know what a fool I've been to think that I could please you, even by joining the Marines. Just like Isaac trying to please his father.
You know, son, I failed you. Failed your mother. Failed my country. And I failed myself. You and everybody else would be a lot happier without me around. I've loused everything up. I'm sorry, son. Forgive me. I wish I knew how to love you as you deserve.
Dad, just hearing you say that. You never said anything like that before, Dad.
What I've done is bring disgrace on both of us. I don't know who I am anymore or why I do what I do. You're better off without me.
Dad, for once in our lives, why don't you let me decide that?
You thought I was happy and proud of that uniform? Instead of being addicted to booze, I was addicted to being an Army Air Corps pilot. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to get out of my own tailspin. People in town expected me to wear that uniform to every military and civic event. Last year, the Rotary Club elected me Citizen Soldier of the Year. All the time I'm feeling like a dummy in the Army-Navy store. I hid behind that uniform. I didn't know who I was without it, or with it for that matter. Still see my father's eyes as he smiled at me, telling me how proud he was of me. Proud of what? Proud of what a slick liar I'd become? It's no use. Sorry, son. I really am proud of you, and not just that uniform either. Take care of yourself.
Dad, give me that gun, and I'll be proud of you too. Oh,
What are you doing?
I'm digging.
I can see that. What are you digging for?
For figs.
For figs? What in blazes?
I'm getting the ground ready for Jesus to put on the manure.
Jesus put on the manure? Jesus, what is this?
Yeah, he's going to put it on. Only not some ordinary chemical fertilizer like the kind you get at Orchard Supply, but real honest-to-God horse manure, Dad. Jesus is going to manure this sucker just as soon as I can get the ground. Move over, Dad. I got to break it up all over.
What in blazes? You know, if you're not careful, the Marines are going to give you a psycho discharge.
Dad, listen to me. Just listen. Remember that story that Jesus told about the man who owned a fig tree that wouldn't produce any figs? The gardener pleaded with him to give the tree one more chance. Just one more chance. And if the tree didn't bear any fruit after they had dug around it and put manure on it, then they could cut it down. Dad, we are a fig tree. You and I. Only we haven't grown any figs. But now Jesus is going to change all of that. Something's got to change. I've been somebody else my entire life.
Do you really think we could have another chance?
Yeah, I do. But the thing we've got to do now is focus on the figs. You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Dad? It's not too late for us to start over. It's been a long time since we've had any figs, Dad. We need to grow some figs. Dad, we need to.
Poor wayfaring man of grief hath often crossed me on my way, who sued so humbly for relief that I could never answer nay. I had not power to ask his name, where to he went, or whence he came. Yet there was something in his eye that won my love. I knew